Hey there, fish keepers. Dean here. This is my pond. It is not ready yet. I haven't had a chance to get it all fixed up and ready for a good viewing because I am still on crutches and unable to do things. But my deck pond I've set up, and this is something that I wanted to do after I got Medaka from April's Aquarium out of Vancouver, BC. Really like those little guys. They look great in the tanks viewed from the side, but the way that they're supposed to be viewed is from above. So I wanted to set up this little deck pond. So I came up with a little plan to make something that looked pretty decent, and it turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So how I made it was it's basically a styrofoam backing with some like fireplace panel on the front of it, slate fireplace panel. I just glued it to the um, styrofoam. It's 1.5 inch styrofoam, um, cut into 3 different sections, and then I pieced them together so that it can be taken apart in the fall because I don't want to be messing around with shoveling with this thing around that could potentially get knocked over, even though it's pretty solid in there. You can see that I didn't finish off all of the slate pressed onto the front of the in the corners there yet. I just haven't had time. I can only do things for about an hour or so with this with my hip being replaced. It's not cool. The bottom part of it I used um, like step rubber matting, and you basically size it to get to the appropriate height. You want to be the same height as the trough. So this is a trough that I purchased from PV Mart here in Red Deer. It's 40 gallons, and I just basically took the um, slate that I'd found at a landscape supply company and then put it over top of the 1.5 inch foam, and it's just basically pressed in there by weight. So I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out, how solid it would be, but it turned out to be really quite solid. I checked it out in a number of spots, and it's in there pretty good. It doesn't really move around at all. It was turned out to be better than I thought it would be. It's just the weight of the slate really holds things into place, but you got to place it carefully when you put it on there. And it was actually really super fun to do. I had to put in some plants. My wife was like, "Their plants would go great there," and they actually became part of the support, so I could lay slate on the planters that they have there. And then in the back of it, I had to cover up the uh, plugins with a bit of the slate I had. I need some more slate to make the whole thing look good, but I had to cover that plugin for starters because it wasn't looking great at all. And but I really like the begonias that my wife picked out. They've got pretty neat leaves to them. And anyways, this is the pond itself. And the one thing you want to do is make sure that you're not getting too much light into the pond. This is south facing, but these leaves I can kind of knock back to increase the light if I have to. So I'm just going to see how the plants that I put in do first. You can see the one that's doing the best out of everything is super red. Ludwigia palustris. It's looking fantastic. There's some crypts in there. There's Hygrophilia polysperma. The I got some chainsword. It's not doing too great. Some Anubias. It's not. The little ones aren't doing good. The big ones are okay. And then I've got a rock pile there to throw in some shrimp. LRB would be proud. But the main thing that I really wanted for this pond was the tiger lotus that you'd seen in the middle there. In the back, there's a couple of pots for creeping Jenny to go around the back of it. My buddy Neil's gonna bring me some. But again, the main thing that I made this pond for is I want a lotus flower on my deck this summer. I think it would be so totally cool, and also to house the Medaka and some shrimp too. So I think it's going to turn out to be pretty neat. Um, but there was a little bit of that went into putting it together. So I'll just show you the materials that I used to put it together here. Pretty simple. It's almost like a common sense kind of a project. You just basically weigh down some styrofoam with slate, and it kind of comes together on its own. And the thing that I really like about it is that you can switch it around as much as what you want every summer. I just wanted to show the corners. They're bigger, right? So you need a fairly large pot underneath there because that 40-gallon feeding trough is doesn't come to the corner, right? So I had a fairly big planter in there, and somebody put a plant in, but you use that planter to provide stability. And the begonia is really nice looking too. So I just had some stair rubber matting, and then there is the fireplace backing. It's about 6 inches by about, I don't know, 2.5 feet or so. And then you just measure from the distance of your rubber matting to the pond, and you want to get it level. Just cut your styrofoam, and then you want to, well, I made it so I could take it apart really easily. I think it's in 3 different sections. And the stuff that I used here was ledge stone, is what it's called. They use it for fireplaces most of the time. And it wasn't super cheap, but if you went to like a Renew store, you could probably pick up stuff for pretty cheap. But then you just got to match your slate. And I already had the slate. The slate was black. I was going to do the whole thing with slate. That's crazy. And then this here, you want to make sure that you have glue that you can use to attach to styrofoam. But anyways, these are the guys that I wanted to get out there. However, before they came out, I wanted to get some eggs from them. And you can see this female here has got a bunch of eggs on her anal fin. They just attach. So Medaka have eggs, and they're not laid. They're just basically like stuck in a clump to their anal fin, and then they go around the tank and they deposit them all over the tank. So you got to pick them out of there. So I needed a bit of equipment to get this off of her because I didn't want to pick them out of the tank. I wanted to make sure I had some before I put them out into the pond. So just a net, an egg container, and then a container to hold her in while I actually strip the eggs from the fish, which was pretty neat. So I caught her. Wasn't a problem at all. Medaka are they're fairly feisty, but they're kind of like a cross between a rainbow and a guppy. They're a little bit slower than a rainbow or a blue eye. They're really like a blue eye. So here I just put her into the net. So just make sure you wet your hands really good first before you handle the fish. Just pick them up gently. Try to get some security over them without putting too much pressure on them at all. And then just slide your finger gently down the anal fin to get the eggs off. I found it to be pretty easy. This is the first time I ever did it. And I'd watched Alexander Williamson do it on The Secret History Living in Your Aquarium, or Fish Story, as he now calls it. And it looked like it was a pretty easy procedure, and I had stripped eggs from trout before, so I was sure that, that looks way easier than holding a 10-pound rainbow and squeezing the eggs out of it. This one, you don't have to put any kind of squeeze on. You just gently slide your finger across and those eggs come right off. It's really simple. So I wanted to do this to make sure that I had some eggs before I put them out into the pond because, things can go haywire. Heater can go. It can get too cold out. I don't want to lose them. So I did it with about 3 females over a couple of days. And I have about 60 eggs. And then I let her go. And they're none the worse for wear. They all did really well. Happy fish keeping.